Thank you. My name is Michael Savoy. I'm a partner in a CPA firm in Santa Monica that has a little over 100 employees. I've been practicing for 45 years. I still can't get over why they say practice. Because I think after 45 years I'm closer to perfect than practice, but I've been practicing for 45 years. I have a few more years left. I'm only one of two people that have been appointed to the California Board of Accountancy by two different governors. I'm only the first person to be president twice. I served in 2013 and 14 and also finished my term, I think it was last Friday when I put the gavel down and we voted in a new president. Which reminds me of a little story. There's 106,000 CPAs and or firms within California, which is the largest constituency of 55 jurisdictions. When I was elected president in November of 2013 in San Jose, I came home, my son was doing his homework, and he said, "Congratulations, Dad, president of the CBA. Are you the smartest CPA in California?" I said, "Son, not by a long shot, but I am the most powerful." They say that practice makes perfect, or more specifically, that 10,000 hours of deliberate practice is necessary to obtain performance levels at a very high range. That goes from sports to chess to music. The 10,000 hour rule generally reflects the idea that becoming a world-class athlete or performer rests on a period of long, hard work rather than innate ability or talent. You don't need to be born with the right genes to be a superstar. You just have to practice the right way. Do you think Tiger Woods woke up when he did, and he was born, he said, "I'm going to be the greatest golfer in the history of golf for 15 years"? What about Michael Jordan? Joe Montana? Tom Brady? Stephen Curry? LeBron James? Roger Federer? Serena Williams? Did they wake up one day and said, "I'm going to be the greatest athletes ever"? Is it true that all it takes to achieve exceptional performance is practice? The debate over whether stars are born or made have been going on since ancient Greece. Plato, who argued that we come into this world with biologically endowed abilities and skills, and that the highest levels of our success are predetermined by the heavens. On the other side of the debate was Plato, was Aristotle, who happened to be Plato's student, and he adamantly believed that success was gained through learning and training. Is deliberate practice, that is practice specifically designed to improve one's skills, all it takes to become an expert? Hard work does help, but to reach the highest levels of performance in some arenas, that is not the entire story. Some people require much less practice than others to reach elite performance levels. In other words, it seems that factors other than practice are important for determining who is going to obtain the highest levels of skills. To me, the 10,000 hour rule is an appealing one. 45 years, I've worked 2,000 hours a year, so that's 90,000 hours. So sometime in the early, I got to a level of expertise. And now I'm just kind of enjoying it. But that implies that anyone can become an expert if they work hard enough. Yes, hard work is extremely important, but it's certainly not everything. Whether it's genes, motivation, or one's ability to handle failure, all of the above or something else altogether, we have to own up to the fact that there are factors other than practice that contribute to achieving success. Obviously, the debate will go on for 1,000 more years. So let's now examine what it really takes to be a good leader. Leadership is about skills and attitudes and behaviors and certainly charisma. The most critical skill set, I believe, is adaptability. Adaptability and flexibility are crucial to effective leadership. Good leaders are able to excel at balancing realism with optimism. They can turn a keen, analytical eye to reality, yet remain positive and hopeful. And then when circumstances change, they can recognize this and accommodate it. A related capability is a tolerance for uncertainty and conflict. Exercising leadership can be anxiety-producing. It requires bearing up in the face of ambiguity and chaos. To build up your tolerance, practice holding steady in the face of circumstances that make you feel uncomfortable. Relationship skills, as opposed to specific professional expertise, is also essential to effective leadership. Many people move up in the organizational hierarchy because they've been really great at bringing their particular area of expertise to bear on certain types of business situations. Then, when they accede to senior roles, they can stumble because they try to apply the same professional expertise to a problem that really requires emotional intelligence and savvy people skills. Another essential skill is the ability to let others take the reins. People in top jobs win points from their subordinates for solving their problems for them. That dependency can be dangerously seductive. Solving problems for others can too easily become part of your identity. But if you define yourself that way, you're not going to have any time for higher level work. And if you don't ever let your subordinates take the reins, they don't develop their own leadership skills and competencies. The mark of a great leader is not his or her ability to find their replacements. To train and mentor and grow subordinates is essential to any organization. While it is scary, it is a very scary thought to most that the only way to move up in an organization and feel comfortable is that your previous job is being handled thoughtfully and meaningfully by someone else. I'm also a huge fan of the power of listening. I call it the 70-30 rule. You should listen 70% of the time, and you should speak 30% of the time. I believe this is very fundamental to success as a leader and essential to true self-awareness. If you can learn to listen fully without filtering what you hear through your own pre-existing notions, you will find that everyone around you is continually giving you clues, both subtle and overt, about how you're showing up, what they think of you, and how you're impacting them. And as you become more self-aware, you'll start to be able to hone in on both your own strengths as a leader and those areas where you can improve. While I may not have directly answered the question, are leaders born or made? I hope that I was in some way able to leave you some food for thought, knowing whatever camp you may sit in, there is hope for the future. And who knows, you may also get your picture on the front of a magazine someday. Another story, I was on the cover of this magazine in May 2014, and when I became president again in 2018, the president of the California Society said no one has ever been on the cover more than once. Well, the executive officer of the California Board of Accountants said, DS, nobody's been president more than once. So they arranged to get my entire family on the cover. My daughter, who works for KPMG, my other daughter that works for Grant Thornton, and my son, who's studying, I'm not sure what yet, at Cal Poly University at San Luis Obispo. But that was the angle that they used in being able to get me up here more than once. So if anybody's interested, this is on the California Board of Accountancy's website. You can archive May 2015, and it's there. At this time, I want to make it more interactive. I certainly want to talk about your feelings on what I talked about. I solicit questions from the folks that have webbed in order to just make this, more user-friendly. There's just so much you can talk about in terms of what it takes. But I really, would love to hear from you about what your thoughts are about becoming a good leader. Because I've been blessed. I've had opportunities in my life, and I've taken those opportunities. Starting in New York, having the opportunity to work in a firm in California, starting my own firm, merging into a smaller firm that became a very large firm. So I've had my opportunities, and also when my calling came to give back to the profession that I so deeply appreciate, I took that opportunity by becoming a member of the California Board of Accountancy, and I've just completed my 8th year. With a little luck, my goal was to be the first person ever to be appointed by 3 governors, but I'm hoping Governor Brown reappoints me so I don't have to worry about that aspect for the next 4 years. Thank you. Questions? Please.
So I have a question from our Zoom audience. How did you develop your skills at listening without letting your own bias filter when listening?
I first practiced biting on a pencil. I'd be in meetings with colleagues and partners that would understand what I was doing, not prospective clients or outsiders. But every time I thought of saying something, I would bite on a pencil. And they would see that I was trying hard to not speak, because I would have a tendency to want to speak more, but you have to learn. And it's not easy, because I see in other people now talking when somebody else is talking. And I try to tell them, why don't you wait until they finish? But people, they can't wait. They have to say something. And I'm thinking if they wait, they might actually forget what they're about to say and not interrupt the person that's actually talking. But it's an acquired skill. That takes a lot of practice. And for me, it's been most evident when I go out on new client prospects, is that clients, like most people, love to talk about themselves. So you just have to say, what keeps you awake at night? And then go on forever. And what's your highest priority? And you just sit there and listen. And at the end, they'll go, wow, this guy was great. He let me talk about myself, And every once in a while, I'll say, yeah, I've had a few clients that have a similar problem. And this is kind of how I approached it. And maybe, we should get together and talk about those things so I can help you in my 45 years of experience. That although you're seeing something that you think is unique and special to you and your business, I just want to tell you, I've seen it before, and I know how to go about solving it. So I know it's a long answer, but the bottom line is it takes time to do that. But once you do it, you reap the benefits of that tremendously. Yes?
How do you get others to get onto the whole wavelength of freeing up their time so they can be tireless? The example is, I was brought in to be the chief investment officer for a wealth management firm. But before I could do that, I was practicing on learning the portfolio management systems. The guy who currently does the portfolio management systems is going free obviously too busy to train. How do you get somebody on board to let go?
Well, some people will do what they're paid to do, unfortunately. And not doing somebody else's work is the first thing in stepping back. But the whole concept of training your replacement is, I found it very difficult when I was first brought about me many, many years ago. Because the first thing you think is, if I train my replacement, I'm out of a job. However, there are always higher levels within any organization, and if not that organization, somebody else with your skill set, there'll be an opening. And it's just delegating, and you always say, they take 4 hours, it would take me an hour to do it, but if you're not constantly training and mentoring, you will be in a rut. You need to step back and give somebody an assignment, and as I say, give them enough rope to hang themselves, but also know when to step in and help them, and also encourage questions. So say, look, I'll give you an hour or so to get this, but if not, please come to me, or I'll go to them and say, how you doing? What's the stumbling block? Let me try to help you through it. Because what we're trying to develop is people that think.
Right. How do you get the person who's supposed to be training you to do this, that? Like, the example is, Brett Favre was a terrible mentor to
Aaron Rodgers.
However, Alex Smith was a fantastic mentor to
Colin Kaepernick, and where's he now? Oh,
Alex was Mahomes.
okay.
How do you make him an Alex Smith mentor?
Managing up.
Like, how do you get directly?
Well, I mean, the ultimate goal in sports is winning. In business, winning is making money. And I know it's hard to develop a team concept, but it's a culture that has to be pervasive throughout your organization. And I'm sure in Mahomes' case, Andy Reid, and the time he spends, and the time he takes to tell them that in the end result, this is about us winning. And you become famous and richer, as you grow. It's hard for somebody to step back and say, my career is closer to, the last, 6 holes than it was the first 12, or, the back 9. But it's discussions, it's developing a culture within one's organization, whether it's sports or in an accounting firm. And at the end, the mentee has to say, you know what, coach? Give me a chance to do this. I can do it. And say to him, weren't you where I was years ago? Because believe me, I didn't start at the top of the accounting profession. I started as a lowly staff person at a very large accounting firm in New York, where the expression in the staff room was, watch your back. Pretty scary thought for somebody first coming out of school. New York happened to be a very cutthroat society, and still is, and competition was rampant, even in the firm I work for. And I went home one day and I said, not only don't I want to work here, I want to get the hell out of New York. And a few years later, I moved to California, and the rest was history. But it's really speaking to that person, say, give me the opportunity. The only way I can grow is by you allowing me to do this. And you know what? If I can't do it, then we both lose. But if I do it, it enables you to do bigger and greater things. So it's really having conversations and developing cultures within organizations.
So I have a question from our web group here. You mentioned the 70-30 rule and to listen more than you speak. I found that most business people like the talkers more than those who listen more than they talk. If listening is important, why isn't this appreciated more in the business world?
Because the thing they don't teach you in college, and they don't teach you in school,
is how to be successful once you get out into the workplace. And I found that within organizations that I work for, and even going out and soliciting new business, which is a big part of my job, they don't teach you how to be salesmen either in college. They teach you how to do the debits by the window, the credits by the door, or vice versa. They teach you, tax concepts, but the bottom line is interaction with people. And people will notice when somebody's occupying the room because all they're doing is talking. Okay? Those are the people that are least looked up to because they feel they are the most important person in the room. It's the old commercial, E.F. Hutton, if you remember. Everybody was around the table clamoring. All of a sudden, when E.F. Hutton died, everybody leaned in to listen to what he had to say. He didn't talk a lot, but when he had something to say, everybody listened, and it was the most important thing. It's to get your organization to understand that people that talk the most aren't the smartest people in the room. They just think they're the smartest people in the room. And they're trying to make everybody else around them think the same. Personally, I think just the opposite. They're trying to impress too much. Let it happen as it happens. It's more natural. Yes?
So how exactly were you presented with the opportunity to be president of the CPA?
I got lucky in a lot of ways. The California CPA Society, which is not the Board of Accountancy, they endorsed me. There was somebody on the board at the time, a former CPA, that became a vigilante against accountants. Now, make no mistake, for me, the part I enjoy the most is discipline and enforcement, because the CBA is in charge of licensing, legislature, discipline, and enforcement. I happen to like that the most because I think bad CPAs out there give good CPAs a bad name. So they need to be disciplined. We discipline 15 to 20 every other month. That's what happens when you have over 100,000 CPAs in the state. But the opportunity came to me and said, would you be interested in taking this guy's spot on the board because they want to get rid of him? I said, of course. Well, 9 months later, I was still waiting because Governor Schwarzenegger wasn't so inclined to make legacy appointments. He figured it was no big deal. On his very last day in office, he made appointments to all the boards, along with pardoning his friend's son that had stabbed somebody in San Diego. So I was in the front page of the LA Times, where it talked about Schwarzenegger pardoning his friend's son. I was amongst other appointees. So that's how I got in. Yes?
So how did you, what specific actions did you take to develop your own self-awareness?
I ran my own CPA firm for 13 and a half years. I worked for a firm in New York for 3.5. A firm brought me out to California for 4 years, and I didn't like the culture and I didn't like the people, and said to myself, if they offered me a partnership, I don't want to be partners with some of these people. So I went out on my own. That is more self-awareness than anything you'll ever realize, because now if you don't work, bill your client, and collect, you don't eat. You don't pay for your car. You don't pay for your home. So it was very reflective and became more self-aware of what I want to do when I grow up. And I was very successful in my own, but there was a limit in terms of how much you can grow. But I became very much aware because I was the boss. I was the staff. I typed financial statements. I didn't clean toilets. That I would do. But I did everything. And people were hiring me, not a firm, where I was, one cog in the firm. So it was very rewarding. It was very when I didn't get lead clients after going out, I'd have to say, why didn't I get it? Well, some people felt you were small, because if I go away on vacation, who does their work? If I get hit by a bus, they got to go look for another accountant. From that point forward, I became more confident in what I did. I built a fairly large firm, took in another partner, and then in late 1994, merged into the firm I'm now with that had 39 employees, and we're now like 110, 115. So it's really just looking inside yourself, which I know how do you do that well. But it's being your own boss and saying, what do I do? Where do I go? Because do you really want to go back to work for somebody? Or do you want to move forward and be your own person? And I was successful at it. 13 and a half years of being my own. Out of 45 years. And now in the last 24 being a partner, and I was managing partner for 10 years, which is also a very thankless job. I've had more fun in the last 2.5 years not being managing partner, because I'm now working with clients again, I'm growing the business, and I'm doing things that I really enjoy doing. Because being boss, while it may pay a little bit more and have a little more prestige, everybody's headache is your headache. Talk about not sleeping at night. So now I have some of my younger partners dealing with it. It's perfect. Let them deal with that. And I notice a lot of them are getting gray hairs now. I liken it to the President of the United States, most of the presidents, not the ones that color their hair. Take a look at pictures when they first are inaugurated, and look at the picture 4 or 8 years later. They look like their grandfathers. You talk about stress. You talk about being in the most important, most powerful position. Within my firm, I've been there. Within the CBA, I'm there. I've been there. This is no pressure. This is fun. This I enjoy.
So I got a couple questions here. We'll go with one first. You mentioned knowing it was time to leave New York to California. As you moved through the organizations, how did you know it was time to move on for your development? You've addressed a little bit of this, maybe you want to expand on it.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in New York, I say New York is a great place to grow up. New York is a great place to get educated, but also be smart enough to leave New York. It's a very cutthroat environment. People walking on the street don't smile, which became much more obvious to me when I went back after I moved to California. People in California do eye contact, they're smiling. New York, they just walk and put their head down. They don't want eye contact. They don't want any confrontation. I just had come out to California a year and a half before on vacation. Spent 2 months going up and down the state. I just fell in love with it and said, one day I want to live there. Now, I didn't proactively seek, but somebody came up to me in New York and said, would you be interested in moving to California? Are you kidding? This was in October. They flew me out to California in December, and I started working for them on February 1st. And I also knew at the time that California, for the most part back in those days, was kind of a mañana. We'll do it tomorrow. We don't get it done today, that's cool, it'll be there, we'll get it done. My philosophy was always, if it's here now, get it done, because tomorrow will be something else to do. And I was very successful first coming out. They didn't like it at the firm that I was here, because I was fairly aggressive and wanted to get my work done and didn't understand why people were leaving, because tomorrow the work would still be there. I wanted to finish it. So I knew it was my time. And I moved here in 1977, and it's been 41 amazing years. So, next question.
You mentioned that business schools do not teach how to sell or how to engage in business development. How would you recommend one learning these skills, both working for a firm and self-employed? Any books or training programs you could recommend?
They don't teach that in books, unfortunately, and I alluded to it I was going to segue into that after this piece, but it's a great piece. Accounting schools and programs get you ready for the technical expertise that you need. Because at some point during your career, you need to recall whether it's cost accounting or intermediate or something, you'll say, oh yeah, I know that. You know, process costing and standard costing. I learned that. I had this teacher, he taught me. What they don't teach you is the entrepreneurial skills to run a business. And I think that's lacking. I think more schools should bring that as courses, as social skills, soft skills, because I think that's, excuse me. I think that's a really important aspect of being a well-rounded accountant. I learned the hard way because I was my own boss. I went into my own accounting firm. If I didn't sell or get a new client, I didn't eat. So it's getting out there, it's asking the people that you work with to take you out on referrals, to get in front of clients, say, look, I'll keep my mouth shut. I just want to see how you do it. I don't think enough firms do that. I think the people that work for the firms that want to aspire to higher levels need to find somebody that's really good at the firm they go to work for and try to get them to mentor you, to bring you closer. Because you'll know when you get to work for an accounting firm who are the superstars, the partners or the partners to be. You know who they are. It's pretty obvious when you get there. Because not all firms, not all partners sell. There's a handful that sell and sell really well. Then there's a handful of partners. There's minders, finders, and grinders. All right? The finders obviously find the clients. The minders make sure that the work runs smooth. And the grinders are the ones behind the scenes that actually gets the work done. There's room for all of them within an organization. But find the finders and spend time with them. Ask them if you can shadow them for a day or a week and see how they operate. Because it's hard to acquire that without seeing how somebody successful does it.
I've got a
Yep.
follow-on to that.
Yep.
So, what is your approach to get a potential client to sit down and listen to a pitch? And once you have their attention, how do you convince them to go to your firm?
Okay, so it begins with a lead or an opportunity. So years ago, accountants couldn't cold call. Accountants couldn't advertise. Now it's changed. We get leads on the internet, through our website. For me, it's either bankers or lawyers that I've done business with. And all of a sudden, for example, I served on the California Board of Accountancy with a lawyer. He was president 2 years before I was. We bonded and developed a friendship. He lived in a valley, I lived in a valley. We took planes together from Burbank to Sacramento, San Jose, wherever the meetings were. He developed a certain trust in me, being on the board and seeing how I operated. He referred me in to two of my biggest pieces of business to date because he believed in me. Now, the person that refers you in, that's usually the way to get in because they're not going to bring you in front of a prospective client and for you to mess up and for them to say, who the hell is this guy you brought me? So they have to feel super comfortable with you being referred into that lead. The fact that somebody of that high quality brings you in and says, you've got to work with this guy, you're 60% there. Then, listen to the client 70% of the time. Don't go in and sell. Because, then you sound like a used car salesman. And the biggest thing for me is what we always talk about, the elevator speech, or what differentiates you from everybody else. And that's not easy. Because like I said, there's 6, 7, 8,000 CPA firms in California. I can do financials, I can do tax returns. You have to find what differentiates you and play that up. Say, I can do that. And the biggest thing for us is 30% of our new business comes from existing clients. There's something we're not doing for a client because we don't know he needs it. Go in and meet with him regularly and say, what are you up to? What keeps you awake at night? And then all of a sudden he'll tell you, I'm having trouble developing standard costs in my factory. The prices keep going up. I'm not making money. I have no idea what's going on. We can do that for you. We can send in a team of people. We can do that study and see the difference between your standard and actual and make the adjustments. So it's more confidence than anything. I go on referral calls 2, 3, 4 times a week. For me, it comes more natural. And the fact that I was on my own for 13 and a half years, I've developed that. But now I have 100 people behind me that can actually do the work. So I'm even better than I was before because I can sell things that I can't do, but people within the firm can do. Yes?
Quick question. One of the less sexy characteristics of a leader is organization skills. Running your own CPA firm, growing it, you've got to have amazing organization skills or people supporting you with amazing organization skills. One, how would you prioritize organization skills among the toolkit of skills, if you will? 2, how do you know the person to hire who has the organization skills you need? And then 3, if you don't do the top 2, how do you develop organization skills in another, in an employee?
Well, most of the things you're talking about, unfortunately, is trial and error. You're not going to always hire the top candidate to do what it is. So it's training and mentoring and developing a culture within your firm. Whether clients want to hear this or not, because I tell them the opposite. The most important asset within any firm is its employees. Now, when you go out and tell your clients, the most important thing are you. Because if you have no clients, you don't need any employees. But it's the employees are your biggest asset, your biggest inventory. You must train and mentor. I had great leaders in my other partners that I made heads of departments. I didn't want to do it. The head of the auditing department, the head of the tax department, the head of the business services department. And then I had HR, IT, and firm general administrator. You got to sit and work with these people to see if they're on board with what you're trying to accomplish. In any business, the end result is how much money do the partners make. That's it. That's what drives my partners to come to work every day. They want to make more money. And it's not always hiring less people so you can do more. It's hiring the right people in the right seats. But it takes time to mentor and train and sit with the heads of the departments. I sat with them weekly, every Tuesday over lunch, to find out what was their issues within the firm that I needed to step in and help them with. So, managing is not micromanaging, but it's allowing people to do what they do best. If they're not cut out to be the head of something, that's fine. You'll find another one. But you'll find out quickly because they need the people skills, they need the mentoring skills in order to develop cohesiveness in the department that they're running. And then I would attend the tax department meeting and see how they run it. And the accounting and auditing department meeting and see how they run it, and then pull them aside and say, let me make this suggestion. It happened the other day. I'm on a tournament committee at my golf club. 3 members came up for 3-year terms, and 1 was a 1-year term. The vote went out amongst the tournament committee members, 11 members. Obviously, the votes came in, and the head of the department or the tournament committee sent out, here's the votes. 985420. Now, I like this guy a lot, and I said to him afterwards, Dave, wouldn't it have been better, in my personal opinion, had you just said, here are the top 3 vote getters, not say how many votes they got. So the one that got in with a 3 or a 5 didn't feel like, who didn't like me? So it's standing back sometimes and watching people make mistakes, but trying to help them get better. I talk about corrective criticism, but the word criticism has a negative connotation. But if it's done right and it's done thoughtfully, they won't take offense to it. You know, I always feel that if you have 4 people in a room and they all agree with you, I didn't need 3 of them. I didn't need any of them. You like conflicting opinions, you like other things. The one thing I've always, I don't know how I've been able to do this, but you sit in a room, and even though it's your ideas and your suggestions, you make that person feel that it was his idea and his suggestion. It's an interesting trait. It takes a while to acquire that, but you have to be selfless and really self-aware that, you know what, I got all the credit that I need. Let them feel that it was their idea. And you walk out of there feeling great, you go, wow, you know, he did it, but better yet, I did it. I was able to convey to him that that's, you know, the right thing to do. When it works, I mean, it works unbelievably. I mean, it really does. So it's culture, it's mentoring, it's training, and sometimes you make mistakes. You hire the wrong people. But also know, fishing cut bait really quickly. Don't hang on to somebody that's not performing within an organization longer than you should, because that will develop a bad culture within your organization that you've held on. I've had more compliments from employees when we've gotten rid of either bad employees or bad clients, abusive clients. People that are abusive to the staff, never bringing their work on time, and pay or don't pay, all 3, they're gone. Any one of the 3, sometimes you can work with. But we fired clients. I know clients are proud when they fire an accountant or a lawyer. I take pride in firing clients because they're abusive, and they shouldn't be. And even though they're paying us, doesn't give them the right to be abusive towards our staff. So by doing something, you win big, big points with your staff there as well. So hopefully I've kind of answered it. It's hard to directly answer it, but yes.
So we have a couple questions here. What was the biggest motivation that pushed you to accomplish everything that you have? And I think you've answered some of that already. You know, being able to pay for your life, food. And then the other question is, what are your thoughts on the increasing use of technology within the CPA profession? Do you think we will be replaced by robots in 20 years like so many predict?
Well, 20 years is an awful long time. I mean, let's take it in increments of 5 and 10 years. Artificial intelligence, I mean, this is the topic that comes out all the time. Data analytics, I don't think will be replaced. I think because they still need people that think. And accountants, by all means, think. The client says, how do I make more and pay less? You're always thinking about ideas of how to preserve capital or preserve wealth. Years ago, it was clients, it was how much the gross top number was. Now it's how much they take home. So what's really important is the people that are now coming out of college. The accounting profession, it's a little more glitzy now with the Enrons and the WorldComs and the government taking out Arthur Andersen years ago. But I think it's important to know there is always still a need. The accounting profession is still one of the largest employers of any profession in the United States. It's important to know that you can study other things in college, such as data analytics, artificial intelligence, and robotics, and still have a place and be a partner within a CPA firm, because those skills are needed. I think the grinding of the numbers, the computers do a lot of that for us. The auditing, the computers do a lot of that for us now, but you have to analyze the data. Just because the computers spit it out, or a robot might do it, you need a human being that's gonna analyze the data and see what it means. As long as there's banks and other people lending tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to businesses, they're gonna rely on CPAs to give them an honest opinion. Is that business worth lending to? Is there a part two? Or
Well, the first question that I asked was,
what drove me?
Yeah, what drove you?
What drove me was, I'm working 45 years, maybe I'll work another 3 years, but I want to have a lifestyle when I don't have to work anymore that's very similar to the lifestyle I now have. So instead of driving to work, I drive to the golf course. Instead of driving to work, I drive to the airport and go somewhere. So what motivates me is a lifestyle. Last comment on that, people said, how did you get your children to be accountants? I did nothing, because if I would have pushed them, they would have went in a completely opposite direction. They enjoyed the lifestyle, they enjoyed the comforts of living, they enjoyed seeing the fruits of my work, and figure, Daddy, 4 years of college, or 5 years now, it's not a bad paying job to come right out of school. And last year, both of them together bought a very, very expensive condominium in Santa Monica. So I don't have to say anymore. They knew what it took and went about and did it. Did you have your hand up?
I
forgot the question.
I absolutely.
You went blank? Yes, sir.
Mr. Boyd, in your preceding client horizon, how do you communicate to them that you remain on the cutting edge of services?
Well, we spend, as a firm, between $250,000 and $300,000 each year on upgrading and maintaining our data processing. Between going to the web or bringing in new servers, I think they know, just in talking to them, how we go about doing the work we do, that we're cutting edge. Now, the big four firms, or I call them the final four, they can invest a lot more money and resources in doing more than smaller firms. But I think as a local CPA firm in Los Angeles, I think we're above and beyond most local firms because we believe in teaching and educating in-house our people. And some of them that have left and either tried to come back or have, they go, the grass isn't greener on the other side, which makes me feel really good that what they had left is far superior to what they now have. Yes?
So this might be hard to answer since it was the whole presentation, but what would you say would be 3 takeaways to ensure the success of a fairly large CPA firm?
I'm not big on Big Four or Final Four CPA firms, other than the fact that they employ a lot of people. But I think cutting edge in terms of technology, I think is huge. Educating and training their people is in other areas of accounting, and reaching out more to institutions and colleges to get them to either allow them to come in and teach on softer skills about what you need when you walk in the door of a CPA firm. Because I'm telling you, it's a culture shock. And kids that come out of school that have not gone through internships to at least know what's going on, they walk down the hallways and it's like a deer in the headlights. It's major trauma. So you have to be ready for it. And I'm thinking if we get out there more into the colleges and the institutions, about educating them, okay, you've done all your course curriculum and you're a genius in tax and accounting and whatever else you want to be, but this is what it takes to be successful within a CPA firm. would do everybody good, the firms as well as the institutions. That's a good way to end. I want to bring up now, just for a few minutes, the California Board of Accountancy's Information and Planning Officer that'll just talk about what he's brought and how to contact the CBA. Mr. Aaron Boney.
Thank you, Mr. Savoy. So we have in the back, Rocco touched on this earlier, we have in the back some of these folders that are with us. So for those of you who are interested in pursuing licensure, we have a lot of great information in these folders. They're available in the back corner. Talks about a bit about the CPA exam, the educational requirements for licensure, and most importantly, has a contact sheet. So if you have any questions, you can get in contact with our staff that can help you on the examination side as well as the licensure side of things. And you can get, and we have a website as well, cba.ca.gov. All that information is in the folder. And our staff are always available to you, no matter where you may be, kind of on the licensure pathway, just getting started, or if you're about to get your license, our staff are available 5 days a week to support you. So with that, please take this with you, and you can get in contact with us in the future. And Rocco, we're so grateful to be here. Thank you.